Ever wonder why you make the same mistakes over and over again? I know that it feels like you're in control of your decisions, right? But today I want to challenge that belief. Welcome back to the podcast. I have a very special episode today because I think we can all relate in some way to this question. Why do I keep making the same mistakes over and over again? Let's get into it. And no better place to start than the illusion of control. Okay, but here's a quick question to get us started. Have you ever pressed an elevator button twice because the first press didn't feel satisfying enough or feel like the doors were closing quickly enough? I've done it. And guess what? The second button press didn't speed anything up. It just made me feel like I had some control over the situation. And that is called the illusion of control bias. And it's something that we all fall for. And here's the thing, the more involved we feel, the more control we think we have, even when the outcome is totally based on luck or some sort of external variable. Let me give you an example. Gambling. Let's talk about casinos for a second. If you've ever seen someone at a slot machine, you probably have seen someone doing a little bit of a ritual. Maybe they're rubbing the screen, maybe they're pulling the lever in a certain way or saying a phrase before they spin. People also pick out their own lottery numbers because it makes them feel like they're increasing their odds. But newsflash, the odds don't care about your birthday or your cat's name. We want to believe that we can beat chance. That's why gambling is such a stronghold for this bias. It feels like a game of skill, but it's actually just pure randomness wrapped up in some flashing lights and dopamine hits. Another real life example would be the stock market if you can't relate to gambling. So let's just shift to that more sophisticated setting, the world of investing. A lot of people, especially when the market is booming, believe they have a knack for picking the winners. They'll say things like, I knew that stock was going to take off, or I felt it in my gut. Here's the thing, even professionals struggle to beat the market, and yet novice investors often believe their outcomes are based on insight when they're often based on pure luck or timing. Sometimes there is certain formulas, but for the most part, that's what happens. Now, this false sense of control can lead to overconfidence and it can wipe out a portfolio fast. Well, why does this happen? Let's talk about the brain and how the brain really dislikes randomness. Let's get into the psychology of it just for a bit. Your brain is wired to find patterns, even when there's no pattern that actually exists. If something random happens and you benefit from it, your brain will take note of that and say something like this: I did it. Now it thinks you found the secret formula. It's the same reason people knock on wood, wear lucky socks, or avoid walking under ladders. It gives your brain a sense of order in a chaotic world. And honestly, sometimes that illusion is very comforting. But when it influences your decisions, especially financial or relational ones, it actually can backfire on you. So, how do you break that illusion without breaking your spirit? Because here's one powerful question that I'd like to ask you. What do you actually control here? If you're negotiating a job offer, you control your preparation, your delivery, your tone. You don't control the hiring manager's mood, budget, or internal politics. Same with relationships. You control your effort, communication, and boundaries, not the other person's growth timeline. Also, here's another question that I'd like to ask you. Are you overestimating your role in the outcome? And if the answer is yes, you can just plug and play that in any situation. And if your answer is yes, take a breath. Release the need to control everything. Focus on your inputs and let go of the rest. The shift is going to save you and can save you from many things: money, no more doubling down on bad bets; energy, no more obsessing over every outcome; and stress, because trying to control the uncontrollable is a recipe for burnout. And now let's talk a little bit about confirmation bias, because this is why your brain is your biggest yes man. You see what you want to see. Okay. Be honest. Have you ever Googled something like, why I'm definitely right about this argument? And then scrolled until you found the one article that agreed with you? I've done that. I'm guilty. I've done with that. Yeah, you know what that is? That's confirmation bias, and it's sneaky. This is one of the most common mental shortcuts that we actually use. And ironically, it makes us feel more informed when we're actually becoming more closed off. So, what is it? Confirmation bias is your brain's tendency to seek out, interpret, and remember information that supports your already existing beliefs while ignoring or rationalizing anything that contradicts them. And it happens quicker than you can even think about it. Let's say you believe coffee is good for your health, for example. You're going to notice articles like 3 cups a day keeps the doctor away, and scroll right past too much caffeine raises anxiety. Well, why are you doing that? Because one supports your cozy worldview and the other makes you feel really uncomfortable. Your brain isn't looking for truth, it's looking for comfort. Now, combine that bias with an algorithm, say in social media, for example, that's designed to show you more of what you already like, and boom, you've got yourself an echo chamber. You click on one post about natural remedies, now your feed is full of herbal healers and crystal testimonials. And if you believe a certain view, then the platform will serve up all kinds of voices that reinforce it again and again and again until it feels like everyone out there is agreeing with you. And this is where it gets dangerous, because suddenly facts feel like opinions and opinions feel like facts. Let's have a real life conflict example for you. So let's say you're in a heated debate with someone about a topic you care about. Parenting styles, we'll use that. Whatever. You can plug and play some topic you're passionate about, you care about. Each of you are coming in armed with research, but in reality, you're just trading cherry picked sources. You're not debating facts, you're battling biases. We don't form beliefs based on data, we find data to support the beliefs we already have. And how does that show up in your daily life then? Here's a few of those, because you may be thinking at this point, yeah, okay, that's great, but how does that work? How is it relatable to my daily life? And I feel you. Let me give you a few quick fire examples. You knew that person was rude, so now everything they do confirms it, even neutral stuff. You believe you're bad at math, so you dismiss your progress and cling to every mistake as proof. You assume someone's flirting with you, so you reinterpret every text as a signal. Even haha, someone texts you, gets loaded with meaning. Because once your brain is locked in on a belief, it'll bend reality to keep it intact. So, okay, you hear what I'm saying, right? And you probably are finding some examples that you can relate to. But how do you break that bias loop? How do you fight it? Well, the first step you need to do is admit you're biased. It's not a weakness. That's not weakness. It's not your weakness. It's not my weakness. That's self-awareness. Step 2, try this exercise. Ask yourself, what evidence would convince me I'm wrong? If the answer is nothing, that's your sign. You're not open minded, you're just collecting ammo. Step 3, seek out opposing views. Intentionally follow people who challenge your assumptions. Read articles from the other side of whatever it is that you're passionate about, right? not to agree, but to understand. So, say parenting styles, for example. Read articles from the other side, people that believe different than you do. Also, talk to real humans. Online debates get nasty because you know, become ideas. In person, nuance lives, and nuance is what saves us from rigid thinking. And I have a challenge you can try today. Think of one belief you're super confident in. Now search for credible sources that argue the opposite. Just explore it. You don't have to change your mind, but you might actually expand it. And really, confirmation bias is like having a personal yes man in your head 24/7. But growth doesn't come from you always being right, it comes from being willing to check yourself. And speaking of this, what we're going to talk about next is we're going to dive into a bias that hits your wallet hard. So you're going to want to stick around and listen to this because this is called the anchoring effect. Why that first number you see can mess up everything from buying a car to asking for a raise. And remember, we're talking about why you always seem to be making the same mistakes over and over. So the anchoring effect just simply means you're stuck on the first thing you hear. Let me paint a picture for you. You walk into a store, you see a jacket priced at $350 and think, whoa, that's expensive, out of my budget. But right next to it is one for $199, and suddenly that one seems like a steal. Now ask yourself, is $199 a good deal? Or did the first price just mess with your brain? That, my friend, is anchoring bias in action. Anchoring is the cognitive bias where we rely too heavily on the first piece of information that we receive, especially numbers, when making decisions. The first number becomes the anchor, and everything else is evaluated in relation to it, even if it's totally irrelevant. Our brains appear to be quite lazy in that sense, right? We tend to love shortcuts. So when we don't know what something is really worth, we'll grab onto whatever is available and we'll hold on tight. So let me give you some examples because, yeah, I hear you. I know your question is like, that's great. Give me more examples of how this is impacting my everyday life. So let's start with one we've all experienced: shopping. Let's just stick with the theme shopping. A toaster is listed at $89, but marked down from $149. You don't know what a toaster should cost, but $89 now feels like a deal. That $149 wasn't meant to inform, actually, it was meant to anchor your perception. But it's not just retail. This shows up in big decisions too. Let's talk about salary negotiation. The first number tossed out in a negotiation often dictates the entire range of conversation, even if it's totally unrealistic. It's the same thing in buying a house. If a house is listed for $500,000, that number will stick in your mind. Even if the home is only worth $450,000, your offer is going to orbit around that original listing price. So $500,000, 480,000, 490,000. This is why good real estate agents strategically set high listing prices. They're planning an anchor, and most buyers don't even realize it. So here's the psychology behind it. Why do these anchors work so well? Well, anchoring works because we love reference points. That's what our brains love. We hate floating in uncertainty. That first number, whether it's reasonable or not, gives your brain something to grab onto. Even experts fall for it. There was a study that was done where they had some judges in there, experienced judges. And what they found was that experienced judges gave longer prison sentences when the prosecutor suggested a higher number. Let me say that again, okay? Because this is how well it works. There was a study done where experienced judges gave longer prison sentences when the prosecutor suggested a higher number, even if it was arbitrary. So let that sink in. Even judges are swayed by anchors. So, yeah, your brain definitely is too. So, how do we stop it then? If it's so well, how do we free our brain from anchors? Well, delay the decision. First thing, you want to delay the decision. Anchoring works best when you're rushing to make a decision. Take a beat, do your research, ask what's the actual market value, for example, if you're buying a home. Just put it in your situation. Second thing you can do, set your own anchor first. If you're negotiating something, your salary, your freelance rates, even your boundaries in a relationship, try being the one to establish the starting point. It gives you control of the frame. Third thing you can do, watch for emotional anchors. Anchoring isn't always about numbers. Sometimes it's emotional, like comparing a new partner to an old one, or assuming your current job is good enough because it's better than your last toxic one. Ask yourself, am I basing this choice on what's in front of me or on the first thing I saw, heard, or felt? Anchors are subtle, but they are so powerful. Once you see them, though, you can't unsee them. And recognizing when you're being psychologically nudged is one of the most empowering skills you can develop. Let's move in and talk about one of the hardest biases to break. I know it's shocking because we've been talking about, especially after talking about anchoring, because that's difficult to break. But once you see them, you can't unsee them. But let's talk about one of the harder ones to break, one of the hardest biases to break, because it preys on your emotions and your time investment. It's the sunk cost fallacy, and we've all fallen for it. Throwing good money after bad. Well, all right, listen. This one might sting a little. Have you ever stayed in a relationship, a job, a project way past its expiration date just because you already put so much into it? You didn't want to waste your time, your energy, or your heart. That's the sunk cost fallacy. And it's one of the most emotionally manipulative biases we face because it uses our own effort against us. Well, what is it exactly? The sunk cost fallacy is the tendency to continue with something, whether it's a commitment, investment, or behavior, simply because you've already put so many resources into it. It's just like I said, even when continuing isn't the smartest choice for you to do. So the logic goes something like this. This is what you'll be telling yourself. I've already spent so much time on this, or in this relationship, I just can't give up now. But the truth, the time, money, or energy you've spent is already gone. It's sunk. It shouldn't factor into your next decision, but your brain thinks that it should. So, why do we fall for it? Our brains are wired to avoid loss more than they seek gain. Psychologists call this the loss aversion, and it's very powerful. So, instead of asking, what's the best choice moving forward, we ask, how can I make this pain worth it? And that's the trap. We become emotionally attached to the investment itself, even if the outcome is clearly not working. And it happens all throughout our life in so many different situations. College majors, for example, you've spent 2 years studying, say, for example, accounting, but you absolutely hate it. I don't know how many students came before me when I was teaching as a professor, and they'd come to me and they'd spend some almost ready to graduate with a major, and they absolutely hated it. But still, they would keep going because they would tell themselves they're almost there or they're already halfway there. But if you know it's not what you want, is spending, say, 2 more years really the best solution? What about relationships? You've been with someone for 6 years, 10 years. You're both growing in different directions, but you say, we've come so far, I just can't walk away now. You're not staying for the future, you're staying for the past. And that's not love, that's fear. And this goes into business decisions as well. You've poured money into a product launch, for example, and it's just flopping. Rather than cutting your losses, you're going to throw more money at it, hoping to salvage it. Now you've doubled your losses and you delayed pivoting to something better. Here's something to sit with. If you hadn't already invested in this, whatever it is, your plug and playing relationship, business, etc., would you still choose it today? That's the gold. Forget what you've already spent. That can't be recovered. What matters is where you're heading, not where you've been. Okay, so how do we actually then stop ourselves from falling deeper into the trap, especially when I told you this is one of the more difficult ones to stop? How to cut the cord wisely. Well, the first thing you want to do is track your decision logic. If your reason for continuing starts with I already, stop. That's the sunk cost talking. The second thing, focus on opportunity cost. Ask yourself, what could I be doing instead with this time, money, or energy? What you're missing out on might be more valuable than what you're clinging to. Third thing, get outside perspective. Sometimes we do need someone neutral to say, hey, it's okay to let go, especially when your emotions are clouding your judgment. A fresh pair of eyes can help you cut through the noise. Look, letting go is hard, I get it, but staying stuck because you're already invested isn't commitment. It's emotional blackmail from your own mind. Your past effort doesn't entitle you to a payoff, but it can teach you something. And sometimes the bravest, smartest thing you can do is walk away. And let's talk about strategy because we've uncovered a lot of mental traps. Now let's talk about how to make better decisions then on purpose. So stick with me for mindful decision making. Okay, so how do we make these better choices? All right, we've just walked through some pretty tricky mental terrain: illusions of control, confirmation bias, anchoring, and the sunk cost fallacy. So if you're thinking, cool, so my brain is basically a well meaning saboteur, you're not wrong. But here, I have some good news for you. Awareness is your superpower. And once you see the patterns, you can actually start making better decisions, not from fear or impulse, but from clarity. So let's talk about how. First up, mindful decision making, a better approach. Mindfulness isn't just about meditation or breathing deeply. Nope. It's about paying attention on purpose, especially when it comes to your choices. You don't have to make perfect decisions. You just have to make conscious ones. I'm going to give you three evidence backed strategies and experience put in practice strategies that actually work. Recognize your bias. That's your first. Recognize your biases. So catch yourself in the act. Ask, what mental shortcut am I using right now? Am I being anchored? Am I only seeing what I want to see? Am I holding on because I've already invested? And that moment of recognition can completely shift your trajectory. You don't need to change everything overnight. You just need to notice when you're reacting on autopilot. And honestly, most people never do this. So if you're listening right now and you're nodding, you're already ahead of the game. Second thing you can do, seek diverse opinions. The echo chamber is cozy, it feels good. We all love familiarity, but it's not where growth lives. You got to get uncomfortable to grow. So bring in voices that challenge you, not argue. There's a difference. There is a big difference. Okay? Challenge. Surround yourself with people who aren't afraid to disagree with you. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. If everyone you talk to agrees with you, there's no need for one person in that relationship. Okay? You're not growing, you're echoing. Whether it's your team, your partner, or your online community, cultivate feedback that stretches you, helps you to grow. And when you do hear something you don't like, don't dismiss it, sit with it. Let it marinate for a while. That's where self awareness really blooms. The third thing that you can do, question your instincts, but do it gently. Now, I know a lot of you are going to disagree with me on this one, and that's okay. This one might sound counterintuitive because we're constantly told, trust your gut. I think I've even told you that on a few occasions, but I'm going to give you some more information. And here's the nuance: your gut is great for reacting to danger. It's not so great sometimes for evaluating investments, managing relationships, or negotiating contracts. So when you feel that strong internal pull to decide quickly, pause and ask, what's influencing this feeling? Is it fear, ego, familiarity? Then look for evidence. What's the data? What's the story you're telling yourself? And what's actually true? This doesn't mean that you're ignoring your intuition. It means you're just partnering it with logic. Now, I have a bonus tool for you, actually. It's called the Decision Journal. This one's underrated, so underrated, but so powerful. Try keeping a simple journal of your big decisions. Just write down what you choose, why you choose it, what you expected to happen, and what actually happened. And over time, you know what's going to happen? You are going to start seeing patterns in your own thinking. You're going to spot them. You'll see which biases pop up, what environments mess with your judgment, and where your instincts are on point. This is like kind of like self therapy for your decision making skills. And trust me, if you just do this one thing, it's going to change everything. Now, I want you to do something. Think about a recent decision you made, good or bad. What role did bias play? And what would you do differently now that you're more aware? Make that the first thing you put in your decision journal. That would be great to start so you could kind of see out the gate a little bit of a pattern. Let's wrap this up. Today, we peeled back the layers of how your brain really works when it comes to decisions. So, the illusion of control tricks you into believing you can influence things that you can't. Confirmation bias has you clinging to what you already believe. The anchoring effect is trapping you with the first number that you see. And the sunk cost fallacy is convincing you to stay stuck just because you've already given so much. But you also discovered you're not powerless. When you become conscious of these forces, you're reclaiming your power to choose. And that's what this episode was all about: making choices that are yours, not your brain's default scripts. If you got something out of this episode, if you found something eye-opening, go ahead and share it with someone who's standing at a crossroads, perhaps. It could be a friend debating a big life change, or maybe just someone who always orders the same thing on the menu out of habit. And before you go, I'd love to hear from you. What's one decision you're rethinking now that you've learned this? Drop a comment, DM me, tag me, because I want to know what clicked for you. And don't forget to follow me wherever you get your podcast. Until next time, take care of your mind, body, and soul.